Hello, everyone. This is Brian Lewis of the Spin Zone. Welcome aboard. And now we're on to Bundesliga. So we've covered the Premier League, we've covered Serie A, we covered La Liga, and now we're on to Bundesliga, which honestly is my second favorite league behind the Premier League in Europe because I think the Bundesliga is just it's a mix of physical and finesse. And speaking of finesse, we're going to talk about Bayern Munich today because as of recording, they have already played. This was a game that I caught a little bit of earlier in the afternoon, streaming on ESPN Plus. So Bayern Munich at not one, not two, but three goals from Harry Kane, two of them being from the penalty strike, as he is a master from the penalty strike. He scores three goals as Kevin Schlotterbeck, the defender from Augsburg, gets a red card in the 93rd minute to draw the second penalty kick as Bayern Munich pull away 3-0. So as we're talking about the rest of Bundesliga, we're going to look at the standings here. As the opposite, I did the standings on the end of the episode in La Liga, so I'm going to switch it up this time around. So right now, Bayern Munich are back ahead, 8 points, right where they belong, after losing the crown last year to Bayer Leverkusen. And behind them, second place, RB Leipzig, the Red Bull squad, Eintracht Frankfurt in third place with 20 points, Leverkusen with 17, Freiberg with 17, and Union Berlin and Dortmund at 6th and 7th with 16. Bremen with 15, Gladbach with 14. So that's basically 5 through 9 between Freiburg and Gladbach. And then obviously Mainz and Stuttgart and Wolfsburg and Augsburg are all in that competition. Augsburg taking a bad L today. Their goal differential goes down to -10. That's got to be a little bit concerning for their play going forward. But they've also played a lot of the good teams already that smacked them. So that's really helpful for their regard going forward. So as far as going to the games, let's start with the game early tomorrow morning, Stuttgart and Bochum. Now, Bochum are a team at the bottom of the table, but Bochum have had some surprises. They've given Bayern Munich trouble, they've given Dortmund trouble, and I think they beat Leipzig. So they're no slouch, right? In that regard, I think if the smart money is going to be that Stuttgart wins that game. Next one, Leverkusen and Heidenheim. I'm going to go with Leverkusen. I know they've struggled a little bit. They're not in the same form as last season. But Xabi Alonso squad will be able to get a victory there. Leipzig and Hoffenheim. I don't know what to believe with Leipzig right now. They're super talented. They have a lot of attacking talent. They're awesome. They're a great squad. I think sometimes some of their losses, it looks like the energy and pace isn't there. And I feel like if they don't really start games off really well, especially in the Olmo era, it's not the same. So I think that's a bit of a concern, and I would be concerned there. Frankfurt and Bremen, these are two teams towards the top of the table. I'm seeing a draw here, and that's the 12:30 game. So that's a draw. I'm going to say a draw for the Leipzig and Hoffenheim hit game. Wolfsburg and Union Berlin. Now, these are teams closer to the top of the table. So Wolfsburg are closer to 12. Union Berlin are like 5th or 6th. I'm going to go with a draw in this game as well. I'm going to go with 2-2. I think there'll be two goals on each side. Now, Dortmund and Freiburg, I think this is a game where Dortmund's going to see that 3 points are very essential. I think they're going to grab the 3 points here, and they're going to win that game. I would say like a 3-1 result. Now, the two games on Sunday, Kiel and Mainz. I'm going to go with Mainz over Holstein Kiel in a win, and I'm going to go with Gladbach in a win over St. Pauli. And St. Pauli will play right away on Friday against Kiel. So the two teams that are projected to lose on Sunday are going to have a quick turnaround and play the day after Thanksgiving on American Black Friday at 2:30 in the afternoon. So that's going to be a quick turnaround. And then, of course, we're going into those next Sunday games, which will be fascinating. So as far as Bayern Munich being back in first place, it's not really a surprise. It's not like they're a bad squad. Vincent Kompany, the former Manchester City captain, it's a second season. They had that whole drama with Nagelsmann. Now, if they decide to move on from Harry Kane because they want to maybe go after Osimhen, which I think might be a bold move, actually. Because you think about it, you sign Harry Kane for about 90, 100 million from Tottenham, and then you get Manchester United, Manchester City, or Chelsea, for example, because Chelsea are pushing Nkunku out. So maybe, in a way, you got to figure out what to do with some other players on that roster. But the striker position is going to be something that if Kane decides to leave and go back to England, which I always felt like it was always a short-term move for him to go to Bayern anyway, him to go win some trophies, maybe win a league title. And after he wins a league title this year, I think he's going to end up going back to England. So it'd be cool if Osimhen went to Bayern. I would not want that. That'd be one thing. Benjamin Sesko is probably going to be a target. Lautaro Martinez, if Inter end up having some trouble. Dusan Vlahovic would be the typical Bayern option, because I feel like Bayern always does well with guys that have underachieved at other big clubs, and then they find a way to just have them absolutely go off. Another option would be an outside of the box option would be bringing in like someone like a Rodrigo or bringing in a Christopher Nkunku, perhaps, because it could be someone that a new change of scenery, playing for someone like Company. Maybe they're more of a schematic fit. I always feel like Bayern finds a way. I mean, they had Robin, Ribéry, and Mandzukic at one point as their top three, and they were very effective with those three. Lewandowski obviously took it to the next level, but they won. Good games, and they scored a lot of goals with that trio. So I wonder what they're going to do, because defensively they'll be fine. They'll figure it out defensively. They're not going to get challenged in Bundesliga in that regard. So I think it just comes down to scoring goals, because the challenge for them is going to be playing in February. As far as Dortmund goes, they are interested in Joe Bellingham. I'm very fascinated to see if they can pull this off. Now, they've had a strategy of signing American and British youngsters. So they had Jadon Sancho. They've had, I think they also tried to go after Dutch teenager at the time, Calvin Stangs. So they've had a strategy of going after teenagers across Europe, becoming kind of like a breeding ground of not really so much a youth academy, but taking the next level. So as opposed to clubs like England, where in England, not like England, England's not a club, but like Chelsea or Manchester City, that have developed a lot of young talent, like youth products. But because their first team opportunities are scarce, they've had to go off and sell some of those players for less than their market value, because they're 18 years old. You're not going to be able to get anything for an unproven talent. So I think there's a lot of elements to that. But Borussia and Dortmund have had a lot of success with this. Now, keep in mind, they've had guys like Jadon Sancho that they've made a lot of money on, Ousmane Dembele that they've made a ton of money on, and there's Jude Bellingham is also Real Madrid. So they've had a number of talents. Never mind Christian Pulisic. So if they can continue to play on that business model, they're going to have a lot of success. It's just I wish that they could hold on and actually win a trophy, because you saw Leverkusen win it, and Leipzig are coming close too. And you can say the same with Leipzig, because Leipzig have had a different system. That Red Bull nucleus, if you will, gives them a bit more of a pipeline for players to project and move up. So I think there's an element to that, and I'm sure that plays a part of their key. And of course, with Jurgen Klopp being in charge, I'm sure that a lot of that's going to remain the same, because a lot of what he did at Dortmund is similar to what RB Leipzig's goal is. So I think those two clubs there are going to have a vision. Xabi Alonso post Leverkusen, I wonder where they're going to hire. Fulham's coach is an option, right? I think that would be interesting if Marco Silva were to go to Leverkusen. I mean, Fulham. Look at Fulham the last couple of years; they've been great. They've been absolutely great, and they've been in the top 10. Now, keep in mind, Fulham were one of those tides. Now, keep in mind, a couple of years ago, when Aston Villa went down, now they spent like a lot of money. They had Zambo and Gisa, who's now a key part of Napoli, Ademola Lookman, who's a key part of Atalanta. So they had some talent there, Mitrovic, and they just got relegated because they were just unlucky. And that was just a deep year. Bournemouth got relegated that year, and Jack Grealish skull dragged Aston Villa back in the Premier League. So I'm willing to see what's going to happen here with Bundesliga down the stretch, but I think Bayern Munich are probably going to run away with the league and probably win this by 10 plus points at the way it's going, unless Dortmund or RB Leipzig can catch up. Now, guys, enjoy the games this weekend. Take care.